on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe, need you every day. You like my oxygen. Make it seem like the barging down. Got my heart no barging in. From the bed to the floor to the couch. Might wake the neighbors up. Break you in, then break you out. In the end, we're gonna make.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another fabulous edition of All Time High. I'm here today with Dionna. Dionna, as usual, as typical, there's a lot going on in the crypto marketplace.
Yep.
How are things going in your neck of the woods?
Things are great. Things have been exciting. I had a great weekend, so ready to kick off this episode and get going on the fun stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. One of the things I did this weekend, I was able to watch the entirety of the Tom Brady roast. Have you seen this particular Netflix episode?
Yeah, it was funny because I went to St. Louis for the UFC fights, and at like 2:30 in the morning, a bunch of like the fighters and family ended up in my room watching the Tom Brady roast. They hadn't seen it, so it was so funny. We loved it. It was great. It was such a good comedy.
Yeah, it definitely was kind of a breakthrough television moment. And some of the comedians who have been around for a while broke through as well. I wanted to share with you one of the clips that came from Nikki Glazer.
I love it.
She brought up the topic of Tom, FTX, and crypto. I thought it was just a brilliant way to kind of cut through some of this stuff while they all roasted Tom. Here we go. Let's take a listen.
You're my boy, Tommy.
It's still your boy. I got you. Yeah, he's still your guy. You caught a pass from Tom or somebody. I mean, during one of his things, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
my husband did.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
No big deal. Maybe he played the NFL. I don't know. It's all good. People will be Googling that now. Here we go. Here's the Nikki Glazer cut with Tom Brady at their roast.
Tom also lost $30 million in crypto. Tom, how did you fall for that? I mean, even Gronk was like, me know that not real money. Like, Gronk actually does Bitcoin, which is where he just chews on a handful of nickels. But Tom,
Pretty wild, huh? I mean, She nailed that. That was one of the great lines of that entire show.
You know what, though? You know what this is? We made it. We're mainstream. Do you know
It's
how
mainstream
long
now.
people waited? I mean, you kind of knew with the Super Bowl, and then you start seeing it on MSNBC, but now we're like, it's there. We've made it.
Yeah, it's part of the conversation. I mean, when you're talking about Tom Brady and Gronk and the good and the bad, even the ugly of it all, you kind of saw that come out, and it's now part of the comedy routine, if anything. So
I mean,
that is making the space.
Best way to make it. It's probably not.
That may not be the best way to make it, but right now we'll take any conversation.
Pretty much. So speaking of FTX, you saw everything that's going on with them, right?
Oh no, there's a ton going on, and this is a segue into what's next. What's more? Talk to us.
Oh yeah. So so FTX is reorganizing under Chapter 11, and they're looks like for all intents and purposes they're actually going to open back up. So we joke around like, okay, who would actually go and use FTX again? But
okay.
I found some things kind of interesting. So under this reorganization, they're saying that from the day that when they filed for bankruptcy, whatever your claims were for holding, that you're going to be able to recoup somewhere between 118 to 127%, right? So that's roughly, if I had $15,000, I'm going to get, or $17,000, I'm going to get $20,000 back, right? So that's roughly, but we know that at that point in time, Bitcoin was $17,000, and it's sitting somewhere between $61,000 and $63,000. So yeah, they're going to pay back a little bit plus, but think of how much money is left on the table if they actually had their crypto, instead of FTX playing with it.
Oh, no doubt. In fact, I have what I would call a pretty precise number in that regard. You can see, let's see, the exact number on this particular screen. So FTX estimates that it owes creditors around $11.2 billion. And now it says they have $14.5 billion to $16.3 billion to distribute to creditors.
Yeah.
So that's just crazy to think about for a company that basically took it on the chin during one of the worst times in the crypto industry. But they were the ones that created the scenario where the bottom of the market fell out.
Yeah.
It's quite ironic.
here's the interesting thing that I discovered in all of this, right? So FTX was reckless, 100%. Did not follow the rules. One of the things that, in addition to that, was really bad bookkeeping. So it took people forever. Like the 8 billion is kind of like the estimate. It's not even like the actual factual, because nobody knows, because the bookkeeping was just so horrendous. So now that they're starting to dig into it, they're saying, what was that? You said 10, 11. Pull that stat up one more time for me, Jim. So, if we say the $8 billion, so now they've recouped the 11, 12. In reality, though, FTX was a huge holder in Solana. And Solana's up 300%. No, like Solana's up big time, and FTX has $1 billion in Solana. So where's the rest of that money going? Because they made some really good venture investments. Where's that money going?
Oh, Dionna, but wait, there's more. I actually have some of the answers for these questions, because when I looked at I think we got to take a look at who owns the different pieces of the FTX puzzle. We've talked about it before.
Yep.
With the naughty empire of the Sam Bankman-Fried enterprise, otherwise known as FTX.
Oh my Lord.
This is, and I
chart?
guess I'll click enlarge so you can dial in a little bit more. This is the structuring of it. And as you may know, one of his parents at least is a lawyer. Another of his parents is at least a tax person. And I think it may be their intricate ways of putting things together. And so when I saw that, and by the way, this is from the Financial Times. This is not from some random assembly of information. They took the time, documented the detail. It's enough to make you wonder how they accounted for anything.
Yeah. No, it looks, yeah, there you go. I'm curious what, holy cow.
Yeah, as you zoom in, I mean, apparently Alameda, BVI, Japan, Research Ventures Limited versus Alameda Research Limited. I mean, those are very subtle distinguishing characteristics between the name. FTX Markets, Bahamas, FTX Digital Holdings, Singapore, Alston Way, Bancroft Way. Oh my gosh, FTX Property, FTX Properties, Blockfolio. So this took me down an even
deeper. You were a holder of Blockfolio. They rescued Blockfolio. I do remember that, because I was actually talking to Blockfolio at that time and was like super excited that they had gotten some assistance from FTX. So maybe that's just the investments, right? So maybe or like, well, who knows? Because the Alameda one obviously wasn't that big of an investment, or it was.
Well, here, have you heard this before, that when you file bankruptcy, Chapter 7 is when you're going to liquidate all the assets. Chapter 11 is when you're going to reorganize. So when you get into the reorganization, which is what they're doing, you then have debtors who get in line to say, okay, I want my piece of the money. I'm owed it. And the judge determines, after arguments, who gets what's left first and who gets what's next. And then they set the order. So I was like, I wonder what that batting lineup looks like. I'm sports minded. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to share with you kind of the restructuring administration, where it stands right now. And this is what's going to blow your mind even further, right? Because this is in the lower edge of some of the updated court proceedings, some of the filings, et cetera, et cetera. And you get down here. Also, it shows you the key counsel, Sullivan Cromwell. We're going to hear their name a lot. And you get in here. Look who sits atop the list of people looking for their money back. Think of all the ins, the outs, the account. Like you said earlier, FTX Trading, one of the subsidiaries, Alameda Research, one of the companies that they were trading funds back and forth between. Yeah. I mean, go down until you see a name that you don't think is owned by them. Which is the first one you see?
I don't know. Is there one? Ledger.
Yeah, I would say that one, because they're into Clifton Bay Investments. I mean, that is a Sam Bankman-Fried company, although it may not look like his name. And then you go further down, and I mean, it's just all over the place. FTX Japan, FTX Europe, FTX Property, Alameda, Alston Way. I mean, it's incredible that even though they're going to make the people whose funds were not properly allocated whole, they're also very much going to make themselves completely whole, in my estimation. Yeah. And I haven't gone down deep into like, what is Paper Bird Inc.? And I mean, there's just all these things.
Yeah, you know who's not going to get made whole in all of it so far?
Who's that?
The shareholders, Tom Brady, Steph Curry. Like, there's nothing really on the table for them to get their investment back. For them to get, like, as of right now, the shareholders are still kind of holding the bag. I mean, all of the debtors, everybody else is going to get their money back, but the shareholders, there's, and maybe there's some hope for them in some of that, but it's not looking
Well, I'll
good.
tell you what, you brought up Tom Brady again, and we keep going back to Tom Brady. It's not just me. It's not just you. It's not just Netflix. It's not just the entire world. We're gonna take a look at another clip from CNBC and our friend Mackenzie Sigalos. And the lead in is about Tom Brady and how he might be impacted about this particular bankruptcy plans and the updates.
People owed money by FTX are actually not happy. One of them is probably named Tom Brady.
There you
Joining
go.
us now is CNBC's Mackenzie Sigalos. Mackenzie, all right, a bankruptcy, all the money and more is going to be recovered. Why are people unhappy?
So, Brian, the main problem here is that the bankruptcy estate froze the value of customer crypto assets back in November of 2022. So we're talking about the bottom of the bear market. Bitcoin was trading at around $17,000. It's up 270% since then, which means that even though 98% of customers are apparently getting their money back plus interest, they're getting a fraction of what their tokens are actually worth at market prices today. I mean, like, if you do the math, Bitcoin was trading at $17,043 on the day that FTX filed for bankruptcy. If you own just one Bitcoin that day, under this proposed bankruptcy plan, you'd get 118% of that back. That's $20K. And today, Bitcoin's trading at $62,000. That's a big difference.
Well, there you go. I mean, could anybody explain that more effectively than what she did?
No, I think she killed it. And the thing is, it's crypto, right? So it has to be there in the original value. Like, the crypto that is there has to be there. And so they're sitting on a ton of cash. This is probably how they're starting to now be able to make, and did you see how much they've racked up in legal fees already? How much this actual bankruptcy is costing?
I have not. Do you know?
As of right now, it's at $250 million is what they've paid out.
Unbelievable.
Right? So
this is one of the Dionna corollary to the theorem. It is that the numerator and the denominator matter. And so when you're looking at this proceeding in US dollars, you realize that really what you wanted to be having as the base case is the actual asset that was supposed to be held. Because as she points out, it's one thing to be made whole off of your initial investment, but when you put assets at risk and you're expecting exponential returns and you actually do have them happen in the market, that is part of the crime here.
Yeah.
Right? That is part of the criminal aspect.
Yeah, and the sad thing is most times in U.S. bankruptcy, people are happy to get pennies on the dollar. So the fact that you're going to get $1 plus is, it's to them, they're like, hey, we're doing better. And you're like, but you're really not. Like, you really are not, just so we're clear.
Yeah, and the thing to me, as this comes back into the news and the way the narrative is being spun, it seemed to me like they're looking and working and trying to bring FTX back into the mix more than I ever would have imagined. Earlier this year, they indicated that they were not going to bring the company back into existence, but it may be just one of these too good to be true. We think we can rework the narrative. There are a lot of donations that went into the political organizations.
Yes, kind of what I was thinking a little bit.
Kind of. And so I look to the price action on the FTX token as something that's a preliminary indicator. And let me share that particular screen with you as well.
Oh, yeah.
As you look at the price today, now this is a token that's been through the ringer as far as its valuation because, you can see it fall off the cliff there. It was as high as $63 per token, and then it dropped off a bit, got down to as low as 22, 23. Then the rumor spread, CZ got involved, considered buying FTX. Then he sent the tweet out. Probably, I don't want to call it the tweet heard around the world, but that's when the crypto market fell off the edge of the cliff. Yeah. Boom. And all of a sudden it's down here in the 90-cent level. And more recently, and even as late as today, as of this recording, it's at $1.65. And I'm wondering, when you look at that fully diluted market cap, that's $582 million still tied up in the FTX token, even though all the things are happening. What are your thoughts on that? Is this token coming back? I mean, is it going to scream back to a new level if they reinstate the platform?
Maybe. I mean,
Maybe.
it's always possible, right? If they're going to stand it back up, that's essentially the bread and butter. I mean, but this is also the crux of why it was so bad. You can't be the coin and the market maker. The two, it should be illegal for you to have both of them. It's complete conflict of interest. You're essentially pumping your own coin. So if the utility of the FTX coin was it within FTX, if you want to see it go back, you have to get it back in, or you have to get it injected into something else, make it part of a payment system somewhere, and nobody's going to want to do that because it's so tainted. So they stand back up. You know, they maybe have somebody else buy Alameda. Like, there's a way to divvy it up to still capitalize on the business model and do it in a more ethical way. And I think that there was a lot of things they did right, and there was some things that they were really smart about. There just happened to be more things they did wrong, and some things they were really not smart about. So, you know, is it possible? Yes. Will they be successful if they do it? Probably.
Yeah.
It's a shame because, you know.
Well, when I look at those creditors, debtor, you know, the creditors that are looking for their money back, and they're all, the first 5 to 10 of them are all FTX entities or Alameda entities. I'm thinking to myself, the name, the FTX name has lost its cachet, right? That's going to be an albatross around the neck of anybody who tries to resuscitate that brand. But who's to say that they won't come up with some other naming convention or some other 3-letter entity that becomes the new deal? And I don't know what happens to that coin at that time. I don't know the particulars of it, but I'm just keeping my eye on it. I'm not financial advice. Do your own research. I'm not saying that I will or won't buy a bag of it. If I do, I'm happy to share with our listeners about that.
Yeah, why not?
But at this point, I'm just kind of evaluating, watching it, thinking that it's an election year, and the possibility that exists is very real.
Yeah, it could. I feel like if they do rename it, FTT, FTX, and SBF are off the table.
I think and I haven't heard exactly what has happened with the sentencing for Caroline Ellison. Do you know that? I really don't. I don't know when.
Probation, no, I don't. Or she did. She got very minimal jail time, if any, and then probation. So she kind of got a slap on the wrist because she was a cooperating witness.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And SBF took a 25-year term based on the idea that he wasn't quite open, forthright, honest, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, she is a felon, right? So it wasn't like she didn't go away unscathed, but she's not doing jail time like SBF is.
I gotcha. And all these structural components still intact. The reorganization still in play. There's a court proceeding on June 25th that will take this through the next level of where to go with this particular entity. But, you know, right now, it's interesting to me, though, when they say that these assets that customers believe were being held for them were not being held in, let's say, Bitcoin or Solana or whatever the asset was, they must have had the assets and other holdings that in some way allowed those values to increase, right? Let's think about that for a second.
Let's say this. So it all goes back to they're using a dollar value. They're saying, I gave you $20,000 worth of Bitcoin and then it dropped. And now my 20,000 is only worth 5,000, but I want all of my Bitcoin back, right?
Okay.
So when you're going to grab it, like the dollar value, this is where it gets a little convoluted. So the 1-for-1 wasn't there. Where it was within the entity structures is a whole nother thing. But then the FTT token was inflated at that point, right?
Sure.
So it was kind of like, it wasn't one section that completely dropped out. It was the dropping of several things all at once that caused it to get into the trouble that it is, right? And that's why you're seeing now that the market's back, they have more money. They have more money than they did. Like they said, what? They recovered $12,000 and only $8,000 claimed to have been lost at that point. So, you know, it goes back to the books are a mess. Nobody really knows. It was the
Nobody knows.
West. Yep. People were playing and throwing money around, slanging like you wouldn't believe. And, you know, now they're just uncovering it, and it's crypto. It's not dollar. You got to go to 1-to-1, Bitcoin to Bitcoin, not dollar to dollar.
And right now, rightfully so, the proceedings are occurring and the investments were made in US dollars. So the distributions are going to be delivered in US dollars. That brings a whole nother level of complexity to this already incredibly complex case that it seems like investigators and DOJ officials are trying to sweep under the rug as quickly and as fast as they can. But there's just so much there to uncover. There's so much more with those entities to dissect and find out where the intersections are. It's an incredible thing. Dionna, thank you for helping us sort through a portion of this today. Is there anything you want to add to help close this out?
No, this is my favorite topic, so we're probably going to stay hot on it for a minute, as long as it's...
Yeah, we might stay hot on this. Be careful out there, wherever you are in crypto land, and we wish you a great day. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
You on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got